Welcome, everybody, to Podriplegics Opiate Edition number 2. We are brought to you by the Arizona Spinal Cord Injury Association. That is azspinal.org. The phone number is 602-507-4209. You can call Eric at any time. Give him all your bitches and complaints about all the cuss words I say. Call Eric, please.
Anytime? I mean,
anytime. The answer is anytime. This podcast can be found on YouTube, can be found on Facebook at the Arizona Spinal Cord Injury Friends, can be found on Spotify, iTunes, or at azspinal.org/podcast. You can find us on all those, please. It would help us majorly if you just hit subscribe right underneath of you, hit add, leave some comments if you got any questions. Eric will be happy to answer most of them, or Don.
Yep.
Don, Eric, and myself have 100-plus years of living with a disability, and we are not medical professionals. I repeat, we are not medical professionals.
For sure.
So if you have medical issues, if you have medical issues, please contact your doctor or call 911 or something of the sort. Do not ask us or call us or take what we say as medical information. We are literally telling you our stories. We are giving you some of the experiences that we have. Mature language and content may be used. Sorry. Don't sue us. If you're going to sue anybody, sue Eric, not us.
Deal with it.
Right? And here we go. Today, we have Mr. Eric Kenning, Mr. Don Price, and with us a special guest, Mr. Marcos Castillo. Marcos, thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me.
All right, Marcos.
Thank you for coming.
Today we're going to be discussing multiple issues, one of those being how Marcos became disabled. We're going to kind of let him tell his story. We're going to get into some opiate stuff, and how he's used them effectively and or has battled some sort of opiate addictions or anything of the sort. He's just going to tell us his experience mostly, really. Eric, you got anything you want to add to them housekeeping items?
Please don't sue me. Okay. Other than that, I'm good to go. Marcos, again, thanks for coming. I appreciate you being willing to do this on short notice.
No problem at all. I'm happy to do it.
So, Marcos, maybe you can just kind of catch everybody up or let everybody know what your disability is, how you became disabled, kind of give us a little story on that.
Oof, let's see. So I've only told this story like 500 million times, so I think I got it down. Well, I was 18. I thought I was Superman, so I decided to become Superman. So I fell asleep driving on the way home one morning, actually, after a long night out. And it caught up to me. I fell asleep and crashed into a load-bearing wall and was flown up here to Phoenix. Spent about 3 or so months up here, went back to Yuma, spent about a year down there. Woke up one morning and said, you know what, I need to get out of here. And came up here, and that was 17, 18 years ago. Yeah.
So you fell asleep driving too? That's how I got my accident, is I fell asleep driving.
Yeah, well, you know what's crazy is I'm an insomniac.
Me too.
Yeah,
Really?
Normally.
Yeah. So
when you're behind the wheel.
I picked the wrong time. I cannot nap if you paid me.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I am. And if I do end up falling asleep like a nap, I wake up feeling way worse.
Oh, see, if you just say nap to me, I start nodding off right away, man. I'm just like,
I am jealous of people like that.
So, Marcos, where's your injury level? Is it C?
Oh, yeah, so C4 through 7. So for non-spinal cord injury people, one level more up and I'd be on a ventilator.
Wow.
So
I think, Don, you're a C5, right?
C5, complete injury from a diving accident.
Yeah, I'm a C5 incomplete.
Yeah. T12, I believe, incomplete.
Yeah.
So,
are you complete or incomplete, Marcos?
I am incomplete. Yeah, I'm actually a little off because I feel like my right side is like a C5, my left side's like a C4. Because I can do this with this hand and not with the other. So
Right.
it's not even.
I can relate. My legs are the same way. Like one leg works better than the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One leg will have spasms all the time, and the other leg will not, but it'll work. So yeah.
So
Yeah.
do you have chronic pain, Marcos, like nerve pains or anything of the sort?
Yeah. So so I'm going on 19 years post injury. And for about the first 16 or so years, it was all, bone and muscle pain, just, regular old good wear and tear. And about 4 years ago, something different started happening to my body. And I've lost about a quarter of my body weight because of it. And I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease, and it's a demyelinating polyneuropathy. So now I have neuropathic pain on top of it also.
Oh wow.
At least you don't have a quad belly.
Yeah. Well, now I got quad arms, which I didn't have before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was very lucky that I was able to keep the integrity of my weight for such a long time. And I'm the only person that you'll ever meet that never bitched about their weight. I love being fat. I love, going out to eat and the country of it. Yeah. I miss Fat Marcos. I really do.
What's your favorite food?
See, I always tell people, asking me what my favorite food is like asking me which one of my children I love the most. So, I have a type, right? If it comes with these little round things that I can use as spoons, and then I can eat the little round things, that's my type of food. So if it comes with tortillas, I'm golden. Yeah. I mean, obviously, my kids are like, "Man, we eat tacos all the time," and I was like, "Cause we're Mexican. It's what we eat at home. That's it's our day-to-day food." So when I get asked that question, it's obviously biased, but what I eat the most is Mexican food.
Nice. So what you said with the go ahead, Don. You can go ahead.
Well, I was just going to mention that your family has a Mexican restaurant, right? Yuma?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, my cousin has one in Yuma now. The restaurant's been in Mexico. I think we're going on like 70 years now. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the restaurant's older than the town's been established. Yeah, and if you guys ever wonder why I'm so comfortable around, people from the shadows, those are the people I grew up around. So the restaurant is actually located in the red light district. So, pimps and prostitutes and addicts and all that stuff.
We got to go visit this restaurant.
Oh, yeah, and everything else
Don's in.
What a road trip.
Yeah. Well, that's what was on the plan for this year before shit hit the fan.
Yeah. So you said you had autoimmune disorder. I mean, what about that causes you like to lose weight? I mean, I'm not very familiar with that. So. Well,
I think people will recognize it more through it's the chronic version of Guillain-Barré. So Guillain-Barré hits you one time, it hits you really hard, and and then after you start taking the treatments, it goes away. The chronic version just keeps hitting you and hitting you and hitting you. There is a chance to go into remission, but it's pretty rare. So I do the infusions every 2 weeks. We were doing it every month, and then we had to scale back to every 3 weeks. We were having flare-ups, and then every 2 weeks. But yeah, I think you start losing muscle tone, all those things. But the problem with me was my spinal cord injury was covering up the symptoms, because it starts in the extremities. So feet and hands started getting the pain and everything a lot before. And when I was getting the pain and it was triggering autonomic dysreflexia, I was treating spinal cord injury things instead of, just doing the...
Marcos, do they know if the two are related at all? The spinal cord injury and the Guillain-Barré?
So I don't believe they are related, because so Don has the men's group that we all go to, and I've gotten a lot from that group. So when I first got diagnosed, the first thing I started looking for was peer support, right? I'm a big believer in peer support. And I still till this day cannot find a person with quadriplegia that also has CIDP. So the numbers just aren't there. So
and like, did you go there with issues and they somehow, how did they figure that out?
So what was happening was I was already losing weight for a little over, it was close to 2 years. Before I got diagnosed, I was losing weight for about 2 years, just gradually. It wasn't as fast as it was in the last year. And then I started getting really bad ringing in the ears, more pain. And then I started having emotional issues, which I'm not prone to depression or things of that sort. When it got really bad was when I started being scared to be by myself. That was totally unlike me, because I love being by myself. Like this quarantine stuff, you've been seeing my posts. I'm taking the virus seriously. The quarantine stuff is a joke to me, because we're masters at this. We've been at this for a while, right? So yeah. So when I started getting those things, then I started noticing what my routine in the morning is. When I get up and I start getting ready, I have this really big mug of coffee. Well, about 3 days in a row, I dropped it. And then after that, I started noticing that my fingers were bending in a weird way. Now I know that my ulnar nerve and my arm and my hand were being affected. So it was making my ring finger kind of twist inward. I was the only one that noticed it, because I'm the only one that looks at my fingers all the time, right? And then I was having trouble breathing, so it was starting to affect my breathing. It was starting to affect the way I talked. My voice changed. I was having to take a lot more breaths when I was doing sentences. And then I started losing sensation. That scared the hell out of me. So I went to the hospital on a Monday because my arms were hurting bad. And so I went, and they were like, oh, your elbows on your wheelchair, do you use them a lot? And I was like, oh yeah, a lot. That's why I have them this way. And they're like, oh, well, you probably injured your ulnar nerve on your arms, and that's why your arms hurt. Okay. I had to go back that Thursday or Friday. They did an MRI because I was losing sensation. And I started losing sensation of my neck on the sides. And I went in, they did an MRI, which I hadn't done since I first had my injury. And I forgot how loud those things were, man. And then, and they said that I had a slip disc, and they had referred me to a doctor, a neurologist. Well, what's funny is my PCP had already referred me to that same neurologist, which is crazy because doctors never agree on the same thing. So I was like, okay, I was feeling good about it. I went in, we did the initial one, we did the EMGs of the extremities, We did a spinal tap, and a couple weeks later, I was diagnosed. So actually, I was very happy when I was diagnosed because I was in the dark.
Yeah, you figured it out, right? Like that stuff sucks.
Yeah,
Sounds like all that stuff sucks. I mean, I have some of that stuff too, I feel like, but
yeah.
when you were saying all that stuff, I was kind of like, wait a second, do I got that too?
Oh, everybody's like that. When you start, I started, throwing symptoms out there, and they start getting like, no, it's happening.
Yeah. So you're having to be really careful with this autoimmune disease disorder for what's going on right now. Then the pandemic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always very careful. I'm not taking things lightly. I'm making sure I social distance, and I'm not driving around. I just got my van. I go out for drives to kind of clear my head, but I'm not using it to go to meetings or, I had a bunch of things set up that I was going to do. I cleared my schedule. The only thing I'm doing now is my Zoom classes, things like that. But as far as the autoimmune goes, I think everybody else is a little bit more scared for me than I am scared for myself. But that has a little bit more to do with the fact that I'm kind of comfortable with my mortality. I've come to terms with it throughout the years. I feel good about where I'm at with my family and my friends and my community. So obviously I don't want to leave the party yet, right?
Right.
But I came to terms with it years ago. So I think that's where my mind is at. I want to enjoy the people around me for as long as I can, but when I'm ready to go, I think I'm comfortable.
Don, you got anything you want to, or you want me to get right into the opiate stuff?
I just I find it a little ironic that you have to be inside right after you get your driver's license and get your vehicle after all these years. But now you gotta stay home.
Right. I did a video yesterday, and I was like, look, I'm gonna tell you guys what I had planned for my 2020, and I'm gonna list it, and I'm gonna bitch about it, and then I'm not gonna revisit it again. So I thought the video was gonna be like 5 minutes long, and it ended up being like 15 minutes long.
That's quite a list.
Yeah, and then afterwards I was like, oh damn, I forgot. I also wanted to go to the Dodgers home opener in Los Angeles because I've never been to a game in Los Angeles before. So it's just like, there's things I was gonna do for advocacy, and there's just things I was gonna do for pleasure. And now they're kind of both out the window for the time being. But I really, the one that bummed me out was my California road trip.
That's the one. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, but it'll give me another year to get my stamina up so I could actually drive it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Shawn, are you going to still go to Michigan or not?
Yeah, we're gonna go. Hopefully, all this stuff will be gone in a couple weeks. I mean, that's the hope, and then we'll go in end of May or early beginning of June, probably somewhere around then. I feel the same way. I mean, I think Marcos, I think we all have some of the kind of the same feelings. We talked about this last week together. It can be tough on, this kind of situation can be tough if you're not necessarily mentally prepared for it. Mm-hmm. But we've been, like you said, we've been preparing for this thing for a long time, but you can still get down, I mean, I think, what are some of the things you're doing maybe to not get down and not feel like, you're trapped and all those kind of things?
Well, you know what? You can obviously, and you could probably see it on my post on my Facebook, is I hold back a little bit, but I have a dark sense of humor, and my dark sense of humor gets me through dark times. So I tell people, follow at your own peril, but I also try to be conscious of others. So with my advocacy work, it helped me get through the hardest time of my life, which was the last couple of years, because I was able to concentrate my energies on helping somebody else instead of how shitty I was feeling at the time. So I I try to concentrate on other people. Like, what does my community need? What can I help with? Where can I be effective? And then I try to do that, and it does. It fuels me for at least a day or the next couple hours, the next couple seconds or something.
Speaking of your community, and I know this is just one of your many communities, but the Spanish-speaking community of spinal cord, people with spinal cord injuries, are you still doing Spanish-speaking men's group, or is there some way we can reach out to that group as well?
I want to start seeing if we can do some of these classes, because a lot, like two of the mentees that I had were, one was in a nursing home and the other one was at home and couldn't leave, essentially, because transportation and where he lived and stuff. So I think even if we weren't going through this would have actually been something that would have been effective for us. So yeah, and I wanna, that was one of the things, is I wanted to really get that meeting going this year, because I was going to be able to go to people's houses and, you know, talk to them. And, you know, especially Don, you know, a lot of this has to do with speaking to the families, especially in Spanish speaking households. You want to, I remember my parents, luckily my dad is English speaking, but my mom was lost. And I mean, she was lost anyways. Her son was, you know, going through something very difficult, but on top of that, the language barrier, the cultural barrier, you know, things of that sort.
Hey, we probably have to get into talking a little bit about the opiate stuff.
Yeah. So when you you know, when you got in your accident, I mean, did they put you on opiate painkillers immediately? How did your relationship with opiates maybe start?
Let me see. So when I first had my injury, they did have me, you know, they would give me my pain medication on a fixed schedule, regardless of if I asked for it or not. Regardless. And if I asked for it, they would give me more. And if I said I had, you know, oh, I'm having a phantom pain, my leg hurts, they'd try to give me more. Well, like I've explained to people, substance abuse is something that runs in my family, and it's done irreparable damage in many different situations. So it's just something I don't take lightly. You guys can tell that I tend to like to talk, and I don't like to not have mental clarity there. So opiates has never really been my jam, but it's always been the thing that facilitates me being able to be in the community. And now with driving, and I always look back at the day that I had my accident, I had my best friend in the car with me. If my actions would have caused damage to somebody else, that would have been something I wouldn't have handled well. The fact that I only have me to blame makes it a little bit easier. So now that I'm driving, I also have to be cognizant of the fact that I'm on the road with other people, and balancing my pain and balancing my independence aren't mutually exclusive. They, you know, we have to maneuver them together. So, you know, you also have to be aware that there's other people on the road and in this world other than you. So
did you start, you know, maybe like taking like what, pain medication, like?
Yeah, well, I'm lucky. So for a couple years, well, for about 3 years or so, I was living in nursing homes. So the medication was minimal if I was there. I like to drink a lot. So you know, Jimi Hendrix, I don't want to end up like homie, right? So I don't ever mix the two. And if I take one and later on I'm like, oh, you know, I want to, you know, have a beer or something, I make sure that I took it, you know, 6 hours before. Actually, my medication, I'm very lucky that I've been on oxycodone 5-325 since I first had my injury. My dose only started to go up since about 2 years ago. And it's more so that I can have a little bit of wiggle room between my field dates. Now, for years, I would go months without feeling my monthly allotment of medication. And the last about 3 or so years, I started noticing that at the end of the month, I was cutting a little bit closer and closer. So we raised it to a good level. We've been able to keep it at that. But I treat them like the plague, so because I know the damage they can do. But the way I look at them is they're a tool. You know, it's something that's going to help, and it's not going to work for everybody. I think it's amazing that there's people out there that only use cannabis. Hey, you know what? That'd be great if that worked for every single body. Not everybody, but every single body, because our bodies are physiologically different, right? So I use both, but the latter I only use at night. So
is that to help with spasticity or sleeping?
I was having a really hard time sleeping, and I didn't want to up my sleeping medication. So one day when we were still trying to figure out what was going on, I said, well, actually, I didn't smoke since like high school because I have children. And I remember growing up, one of the first smells that I can remember is the smell of cannabis. And I don't see anything wrong with it. I've never seen anything wrong with it. But society has made it so. And it was difficult to have children thinking that their father was, using drugs or illegal drugs and this and that. Now my kids are 18, 20, and 22, so they're a lot cooler with it than I am. Oh yeah, this is all filtered.
When you talk about addiction as running your family, right? When you have seen the negatives of addiction, right? I mean, you said your family has struggled with it. You may have struggled with it a little bit. Did that help you kind of understand? That help you kind of understand that you didn't want to do it? That you didn't want to get yourself in that situation?
It looked really fun for them. It looked really awful for the rest of us. And I love my family, and I love my kids, and I love my community, and I never wanted them to feel the way that we felt. And it was just that simple.
That's awesome. I mean, I know, for some people, that kind of thought doesn't go through their mind, like they don't even consider that. It's more about, starting to get rid of pain. And then once you figure out how good it feels, you continue to use and use and use and use, and you don't even realize who you're hurting,
And the thing is, it would have been very easy for me, and society would have probably forgiven us for going down that hole, right? Because they can't imagine a life where we can strive like this, where we can thrive like this. So you kind of have to make those decisions for yourself, is, where do I want to be later on? And, I grew up on the border. It's a lot different on that other side than it is over here. And I've seen family members get drugged forcefully into rehab, which is something that doesn't happen here in the States. It's just not something I want to put people that I say that I love through, because then it doesn't carry the same weight.
All right. Now, so right now you're on a maintenance dose. So you got a low maintenance dose that you were on. They just upped it a little while ago, like a year or so ago, right? And then you've been doing that, and then you've had you smoke cannabis for sleeping at night because it's hard to turn off your mind, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So right when I try to go to sleep at night, everything starts popping up, right? Bills and every cartoon you've ever watched, and that one time you stepped on a penny and you remembered the year. I don't know why, but it's right when I'm going to go to sleep. But yeah, and I was losing weight and I needed to get my hunger back. Which
that'll do it.
Oddly enough, is why I stopped smoking in high school. Because remember, I brought up Fat Marcos before. Fat Marcos likes to eat, and Fat Marcos on cannabis really likes to eat. So I was like, hey, you know what? I need to put some more meat on these bones. I mean, you guys can attest. I was looking see-through for a while. I was gray. I was very malnourished. I have some days when I'm better and some worse, but yeah, I mean, it's a balance, and it's difficult to navigate the pain management system while using cannabis. So I think that's been my biggest struggle. I've in my 19 years, I've only gone to the hospital and asked for pain medication one time, and it was because of an issue with the pain management clinics. So,
can you say the issue with the pain management clinics? What do you mean? Like you couldn't get your medication when you needed it?
Yeah, most of them try to say that they're following CDC guidelines. CDC guidelines don't distinguish that. They did for a minute years ago, and then they overturned it a couple years ago.
And I think that's the response of the medical community too, because there's been such a backlash on overdosing and just the opioid epidemic crisis that's going on. The what they're doing is they're underdosing. It seems to me, because I've talked with a couple of people that they're just getting a lot less, and they're not being given more like they used to. In fact, Shawn, you had mentioned that a couple times in our talks too, haven't you?
Yeah, you know, I mean, for me, they kind of put me on a super high dose, and then they were like, "Oh, wait, we got to reel you back," and it's so hard to do, right? I mean, it's like, what do you mean you got to reel me back? Like, you can't throw me out there like that and put me on Oxycontin 30s 3 times a day. Like, you can't do that and then say, okay, we're going to bring you down to 10. What? Like, no.
Yeah.
You can't, you know what I mean? That doesn't work. And then not to mention the times you have to go get them, right? I mean, you have to go – when I was on those, we'd have to go every week. I have to go every Friday and pick up a new prescription for the week. So it's like, man, like, how do people who don't have cars, right? Like, you don't have a car, you don't – you know, you're not as maybe independent as some of us are, like maybe you and I, Marcos and Don, like we all drive, we all do things, like, right? But not everybody's that independent. Not everybody can make all that stuff. So, you know, they put these guidelines in and they make these rules, but they don't necessarily think about who those rules are going to affect generally.
And another thing, kind of piggybacking off of that, is when you have to go on missions to go get your drugs, right? You start feeling like you're a criminal. And as a person from a low income, you know, minority community, you keep making people feel like they're criminals, and they're going to start believing it after a while. And then you start getting the shame and the isolation, depression, all those things. And it comes from you not treating your patients like human beings.
Yeah. Question for you. Have you looked into like alternatives, you know, acupuncture, yoga, meditation, any of that sort of stuff?
So I meditate. I come off.
Yeah, you told us you smoke weed.
Yeah. I smoke weed and watch cartoons. That's my. As far as my meditation goes, my meditation is you know, I don't, you know, go sit in my backyard and but I like to tell people that I was raised by hippies because I do have a very hippie-ish side. It's just, you know, you can't tell from here. But yeah, I mean, you know, I meditate. I like nature. One of the things that I was really excited about with my van was being able to, you know, go and take drives out. Like last night, if my girlfriend wasn't working, we would have gone out to the desert to, you know, look at the pink moon or whatever it was last night.
Super.
Yeah, I like things like that. So I do a lot of self-reflection. You know, I do forms of meditation without actually, you know, thinking that it's meditation. I won't do acupuncture because, oddly enough, I'm scared of needles.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of theory behind my needles, though. I think a nurse in Mexico when I was little must have scared the crap out of me because all I had to do is like see them with the syringe, and I start feeling like anxious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Marcos, can I ask something? You know, it sounds like with this maintenance level you're doing, you have everything worked out and pretty well under control. But there are some people out there that maybe finally do lose kind of control of where they are with opioid use. What would you say, how would you say you would recognize that if you were using too much, and what would you tell people to do? What would your advice be for people seeking help that maybe feel like they've gone too far with opioids?
So I would say it is a very, very, very difficult situation for you to pull yourself out of. You need to find someone who's been in the hole to help get you out. There's a parable that I've heard about it. You know, we've all heard it in different versions of somebody who falls in the hole, and then a priest comes, and a doctor comes, and a lawyer comes, and then finally, you know, a person with paralysis or a person with addiction comes, and they help you out because they've been in the hole before. And that's why I believe in peer mentoring. That's why I believe in these peer support groups, is because nobody can help get you out like somebody who's already been there. So I would say find a 12-step program. Narcotics Anonymous, I've heard really good things about. I've had family members who have gone through that program, and, you know, 17 years later, they still haven't touched a drop of alcohol, or, you know, and they, you know, understand that your opiate addiction is going to be different than somebody else's that doesn't have paralysis. You're still going to have to deal with your pain, and you're going to have to manage it while having a monkey riding your back all the time, telling you to take 2 instead of 1, telling you to take 4 instead of 2, and escalating. And then at the end of the month, you know, you're short, and you don't want to relive those things over and over again. Yeah, so, you know, there's alternative medicines if you know, and you have to accept that, like I accept, even without ever having, you know, woken up in a gutter, that lives in me. It's in my blood, it's in my genes. It's something that I was gifted before I was born. And it wasn't my doing, but now it's my responsibility. So, you know, I used to nurture him a lot more, and now I just, you know, I've gone to a comfortable part of in my life where I can ignore him.
That's good. I mean, it's a good thing to be able to do. It's a very difficult thing to be able to do. You know, I applaud you on being able to do that. That's something I couldn't do.
Well, you know what? It took a lot of humility to be able to, you know, I'm very protective of the people I love. So when I say things like, you know, I have addiction in my family, I don't say it in a bad way. I say it because it's a truth. And if there's somebody out there who, you know, we already have shame associated with just our spinal cord injury alone. We don't need the shame of addiction to also ride us, because, like I said, that brings depression and isolation, and, you know, not caring about your hygiene or weight shifting, or all those things that we should be doing as, you know, responsible people with paralysis. But, you know, it's something as simple and as complex as addiction will throw you for a loop.
Absolutely. I mean, it'll change everything you do and how you do it. And I remember being to points in my addiction where, you know, you're taking so much, you don't even really realize like what's going on, right? Like you feel like, you know, and you understand everything, but you don't. You know, you really don't have a clue. You're out here not weight shifting, things of the sort like that. You know what I mean? Those kind of things are big deals for us.
Yes.
And if you're not doing those,
Right.
the next thing you know, you're got a pressure sore and you end up in the hospital.
Yeah.
You know, like now you're
I
in the
lost
hospital.
I lost one of my best friends from addiction when I first moved out of the clinic I was living in. He was my roommate in the clinic. He was a higher level spinal cord injury. We moved out about the same time. And just because of transportation issues, we didn't see each other that much. And one day his sister called me and told me that he had died from a heroin overdose. And, you know, and it was like, I remember him, you know, a couple months before, he wasn't doing heroin while he was there, but he was on a lot of Dilaudid. He was on a lot of, you know, Percocets, Valium. He had patches. You know, he suffered a lot through his pain, and he had that monkey on his back from before his injury. So he nurtured it a little too much. And that, along with other things that were happening in my life at the time, you know, seeing my children, I was like, you know what, this I am definitely not going down that road.
That's good. That's a good thing.
Well, we were running close to the end of our time here, so probably have to wind it up a little bit.
Is there, I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to ask Don. Is there something that you wanted to ask him about the opiate stuff or opioids?
I just want to thank you for being so open and honest with us. Yep. And sharing your story, because it you know, it can really help other people. This whole conversation started basically because we've seen some of our community members go down that hole and have some serious issues, and even one of my friends as well died from the opiate thing. So just thank you for being here, and we're going to continue to work on gathering more resources and making those available through the Arizona Spinal Cord Injury Association. So Eric, if you want to just wrap it up with telling where we're at with that, that would be.
Oh, actually, before you guys wrap it up, if I can just throw something else in here. If we do have friends or family who do end up falling down the hole of addiction, I would say do your best to try to forgive them, because the shame associated with it will only make it worse. And, you know, not having your community and your friends there to help elevate you is only going to make things exponentially worse. So this conversation is a great start.
On that note, just to let you know what we're doing on our side at the Arizona Spinal Cord Injury, we're changing the conversation. A lot of people who want to seek that support, that want to get into rehab and have a complex disability with chronic pain and stuff like that, what they would do is the conversation was, oh yeah, go to skilled nursing. Well, we're changing that conversation. We're actually getting in touch with some of the local treatment centers around here, inpatient and outpatient treatment centers, to have a better understanding of what we're dealing with here, and to be a little more compassionate and willing to work with someone who has a complex disability to be able to get the support in groups and through counseling. Because so anyways, if you go to our website at azspinal.org, and you look through our resources, and we have a specific link for opioid recovery and treatment and stuff like that. It lists some of our resources that we have there. So we're really trying to change that on our side to provide better community support with this, because we're finding a lot of people. Marcos, you had to go through this alone, right? You had to make this journey on your own with some mentor support, but on your own, correct? Okay, so this is what we're trying to change. We're trying to actually find a way to get additional support so that you don't have to be alone when you're doing this, so that you can have that type of support that you need. Or whoever. I'm not saying that, you know, you did a wonderful job. I think it's fantastic you are where you are. I'm just saying it I think it would benefit a lot of people to have that additional support. So
yeah, I mean, it's something I wish I had. I would have had, or I would have been able to find, I guess. I mean, I'm sure it was out there, but when I was dealing with that stuff, it's something I definitely wish I had. I wish I had had somebody there to be able to kind of coach me and tell me some of the things that I shouldn't do, right? Like to be able to say, hey, look, you're on a manageable dose right now. Like Marcos is saying, stay on that manageable dose. Don't take to it. Look, you learn to live with what the pain that you have at that point. And if you can do that, then it'll be a lot easier. For me, it was just straight blast off, like, I mean, as soon as I got on them, it was, whoa. They were like, oh, okay, we'll put you on this and this and this and this. And I'm like, all right, give me more. Yeah. Good idea. And it was blast off, like it was rocket ship.
There was a time when doctors were just handing them out like
animal.
Yeah, they were like candy. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there's I won't say his name, but there's a pretty famous pain management doctor in West Phoenix, and I had gone in to fill my script, and he was like, "Do you want any Valium and any this and that for this kind of pain and this?" And I was like, "No," and I was very lucky that I said no. And I didn't say no in like, oh no, I don't want them. I don't need them. But at the time, as a 19-year-old kid, getting that amount of opiates,
yeah.
I can't imagine a doctor trying to give that to my kids. I would lose it.
Yep. Well,
they do, man. They do it. They do it to all of us. I mean, it takes that. It takes somebody like you or me or Don or Eric to be like, look, that's not the answer. It's not going to be the answer, because it may be the short-term answer for you, but it's going to be a long-term disaster.
Yeah. That's a great way. That's a great way to put it.
Well said.
Yeah. So I would also encourage you to look at Jon Kabat-Zinn for meditation. He has a specific type of meditation to deal with chronic pain. So if you're interested in looking at that, there are many types of ways to meditate, and this one specifically is to help the mind wrap around chronic pain and remap itself. And it has some success. It doesn't help everyone, but it can help some people. I think there's like a 40% success rate on that. So I would look into it though. It's helped people. So.
Yeah, and for me, it was I did a lot of the step programs like you were talking about, and a lot of the mentoring and going to talk to people in groups. That really was the best for me is the group talks. When you go and sit in those groups and you start realizing how many lives this is really destroying, you start to grasp a hold of the fact that you're destroying your life and other people around you too. I mean, that's something that you talked about earlier. And it's great. I'm so happy that you brought it up and you actually realized it from the beginning. It took me a long time to realize that I was hurting other people in the process of what I was doing.
Well, my thing was I was kind of scared that I was gonna like opiates the way I liked alcohol. Yeah. And it's just you're just gonna find the thing that you enjoy, and you're gonna overwhelm and overindulge yourself. And I saw what opiates did to people in my community, and it started with alcohol, and I was already at the alcohol phase, and now being handed this stuff, freely, it wasn't going to turn out well.
Also,
Absolutely
just to let our listeners know, so I'm one of the case managers at the organization. So if you ever want to call and you just want to talk, and I can forward you on to some resources. The number again is 602-507-4209. So
all right, well, cool, man. Well, hey, we appreciate it. We appreciate your time, Marcos. It was good to talk to you. I talk to you a lot, and Don talks to you a lot, but everybody else finally get to hear from you, and it's fantastic. I think you're doing a great job, number one, and number two, you can inspire a lot of people. So keep doing that mentoring stuff, man. It's a big deal. It really is. It's a big deal for everybody who you touch and everybody who you talk to. So keep it up, man. We appreciate it. Don, Eric,
Love you guys. Thank you so much for all this great advice. Good stuff, guys. Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right. Peace out, y'all.